Coming up in episode 73, average users don't ever have to worry about hitting 1 terabyte of bandwidth in a month. I work from home.
We're horrible.
I work from home. I share video files. I share audio files. I back up every time we produce a new show. Mm-hmm. I back up all the subsequent files. It's about 3 gigs every week when we produce a show. And now that we're doing video on top of that, that's an additional 1 or 2 gigs of memory every single time. I'm not a normal user. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. My name is Sandra Fernandez, and as usual, I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan, Alanis, and Anjelica, Cazares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. This week, we give a shout out to the UNAM team that took top honors at a recent NASA competition. We delve into the fact that I am a data hog, and I'm sorry, Comcast, I went over my limit last month, and about how we actually all use the internet in our homes and how it helps us decide where we eat, where we spend our time, and even what devices we use when we're on the road. And that brings us into a conversation about the digital divide with a look at the need for Wi-Fi technology like computers and the skills to use it, and how some cities are trying to combat it and what we've seen with our communities. Just a reminder that you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittlерadioshow.com. And as always, all the inspiration for today's content came in from HispanicHouston.com and JuanOfWords.com.
Before we get the show started this week, I just wanted to say congratulations to this school from the UNAM in Mexico. I found this article on Remezcla recently, and it says it's a Mexican college robotics team that beat out a competition. There was 11 different countries that were represented, and they actually beat out the rest of the countries. And it's a Mexican team, like I said, that was competing, and it was a competition by NASA and Worcester Polytechnic. And, you know, like I said, there were 11 teams. They got like a $10,000 prize at the end. And what I really liked about the story is just that it was a kind of the students that, you know, were
the
kind
underdog.
of excited. Yeah, they were the underdogs. They were real excited. And I liked what one of the representatives from the group said.
Well, is Mexico really an underdog when it comes to academia? They're not, but when it comes, I thought they were like doing really well when it comes to
technology. I think they have like El Tec de Monterrey, like, and they have that does really well. But I don't know.
But they weren't expected to win, is what you're saying.
I don't know where they rank though on the like tech wise.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw the story and I thought it was cool. I thought I'd share it and just say congratulations to them. And then one of the representatives they quoted in this article was Juan Carlos Mariscal. And I liked what he said. He said, "We have the same abilities as any other student in the world. And the UNAM is one of the best universities, and our creativity makes us unique." So congratulations to them. I just thought that was a cool story.
That is a cool story. Congratulations. I always like to hear about how, you know, someone who wasn't thought that they could have a chance to win, or people who are underappreciated or overlooked. Yeah. When they come out ahead and they defy the expectations. And defying the expectations is a great thing.
And I just like seeing like positive stories about, like, you know, and I'm a little biased here, but like Mexican American stories that, you know, are like you know, doing positive things. And so that to me, I was just like, hey, what a cool stories.
I understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. Congratulations to them. My brother was involved in robotics team when he was in high school. And so we used to watch the competitions for that. And it's very interesting because there's a lot of creativity. There's science and engineering and, you know, technology, but the most of it is the hard work of the kids and the creativity, and that has a lot to do with it.
And that's so like important nowadays. I mean, because you hear all the time like STEM and STEAM, and you have to, you know, like that's where the workforce is going, and that's where you want your kids to kind of, you know, have some specialty areas, or to at least be familiar with it, because like it's kind of like HTML when HTML happened, and all of a sudden, you know, if you didn't know at least a little bit, you were kind of lost. And
there are still people who don't know anything about HTML.
But at some point, they started requiring you to take HTML courses in school. And like I remember, like I took one HTML course, and I was like, why do I have to take this? And then later on in life, I was like, oh, I'm so happy that I took that class because it helped, like, just the basic. And I'm not literate at all. but at least I can get by.
Well, I used to do complete websites in HTML way back in the day, but my nephew, who is in elementary school, one of the classes that he takes is he actually is creating apps in computer, small computer programs, using those programs that they're doing for kids to help bring them along in different languages. His thing that he did over the Thanksgiving holidays, he told me that he had created a Wix website because he wanted a way to share his reviews of games and movies with his friends. The most recent thing, though, that he told me is that he went in and he did the thing on YouTube that lets him monetize his videos. And I'm like, that a 10-year-old is using the word monetize correctly, just. I'm split between dismay and pride.
But look at the stark difference. Because
Concerned?
No,
no concern. Not yet.
But look at the stark difference, because like when we were growing up, like we were playing like the wagon game, or the thing where
it's called.
Where you had
the
to
wagon.
where you had to do like little things to make a drawing appear or something, where you had to put in like some kind. It wasn't code,
I remember.
But it was like some kind of numbers that you had to do to like come up with to make things populate. And now kids are developing apps. That's crazy, That's like, but that's definitely in a good way.
I'm definitely not one to develop anything. What I am good at is using it, though. I'm really good at using software. I remember even the first time that I ever opened an email. It was like was it high school or middle school?
Mail. Remember that?
I was like, what the world? Why do they want us to? What is the point of email? But that was like the mass form of communication. And then, of course, there was Messenger, and there was like other stuff. And there was a point where it was inevitable. That was it.
But even now, until like this year, like until you introduced me to like really what Dropbox Cloud was.
It was me.
I was kind of like, what? Like I hear you talk about like the cloud and stuff, and I was like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I love the cloud, but I love my iCloud.
Oh,
Dropbox is a whole other monster.
Yeah, Dropbox is a whole other monster. I've got stuff in Google Drive. I've got stuff on Dropbox, and then I've got this thing where it does a backup of my most important files onto Amazon, and because I have had the bad experience very recently, actually, of that my computer has died, and I don't want to lose my files. If I lose my files, yeah, that's gonna be a bad day.
But the thing I love about Drive and I love about Dropbox is that I can be anywhere.
Yes.
And I can just access my files. Like,
but you have to have Wi-Fi.
Not really. Well,
internet. Yes,
internet.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't going to be able to send you anything without Wi-Fi anyway.
Yeah.
Because where was I going to print?
Or maybe we're together and I need to show you and there's no Wi-Fi. But there's a lot of variables.
I am not bringing my entire filing cabinet with me just so you can have it in printed form.
But going back to the thing about technology and how it's changing these things, I just saw a commercial for, I can't remember what brand of car it was, but they were marketing the fact that they had already had Wi-Fi installed. And I know that's not a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing.
But it's the first time I saw a commercial where they were like, oh, yeah, and it already comes with Wi-Fi installed. Like,
well, but you still have to pay for the monthly service. Yeah,
you still have to like pay with your carrier, but it's still like...
It was a huge thing.
It had like a little light like that you just that lit up.
So remember can I tell you...
That button, that blue button that would turn on? That it was in all the OnStar.
OnStar.
It was like the thing, and it was like the big thing, and now it's like, you just need your phone.
No, the milestone I had recently, I don't know if you realize this, but there was a change for a lot of us whereby Comcast is now capping the amount of internet you can use in your home as part of a regular subscription.
Did not see that.
We got a letter.
Yes.
Actually, I read it. I'm sorry I should have gave it to you.
So last month, for the first time, I actually went over my amount. Wow. So the way that Comcast works, as I understand it, is you're allowed 2 complimentary overages in a 12-month period without them charging you. The third time it happens, they're going to charge you by how much you're over up to a certain amount. Or you can, for $50 a month, upgrade to the unlimited internet
How is it that
service.
It's always like for the extra fee you can
at least they
more.
have one. At least they have one. I knew as soon as the cap was instituted, I work from home. I work
that's
from home.
bizarre. Like I've never like heard.
But
of,
that's
like, an
because
internet
everywhere
provider
we're connecting so
capping
many
you at home.
devices. We're connecting so many devices.
But that's the way it used to be. So so we when it was AOL.
See, I don't even remember.
Yeah,
that.
when was AOL in some other places. I remember that you actually had a limit as to what how much you could have, how much access you had, and after that you had to pay. And I had conversations with people. Like, you know how now you have conversations with people, oh, I went over my data, blah, 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 and I had to pay extra on my cell phone. Those were the kinds of conversations we had way back when. I used to work for the university, and one of the perks of working for the university is that they let us dial into the internet using their server. So we were allowed to dial in for free without having to have AOL. And it was unlimited, which was wonderful because not only did we not have to pay, we didn't have to worry about how much. So now, for the first time, I actually hit I'm surprised it took me this long, the overage on Comcast. So when we hit it for the second time, I am going to have to make the decision, very obviously, to pay up.
What's our limit?
So our limit,
Isn't it 1 terabyte
something like that, yeah. So, but the problem is now that they're slowing it down for us is what's happening within our home, that it slows down.
Oh, they what is it? What they
throttle.
Call it?
Yeah,
they throttle it.
So they slow down. So for an extra $90 a month, no, actually the entire price, $90 a month, we can add more devices, which is a larger bandwidth, which means our phones and our internet will run faster.
Well, that's crazy,
and so
because
on and
like
so forth.
The reason we have, so we got unlimited on our phones, on our mobile devices, on our phones, so that at home we're like, oh, this is like our like safe zone. So we like put Wi-Fi, and we use Wi-Fi all the time that we're at home. But now this is like, on top of that, you're going to use it up.
Do you remember there was a conversation before? Remember they used to overcharge you for how many text messages you can send?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, remember the how many minutes you
had
could
a
whatever
number of text messages.
I still have a certain number of text messages a month. I never use them.
Oh, really?
We are power users.
Yeah, we are.
Average users don't ever have to worry about hitting 1 terabyte of bandwidth in a month. I work from home.
We're horrible.
I work from home. I share video files. I share audio files. I back up every time we produce a new show. I back up all the subsequent files. It's about 3 gigs every week when we produce a show. And now that we're doing video on top of that, that's an additional 1 or 2 gigs of memory every single time. I'm not a normal user. I knew I was going to hit the limit, and I knew I was going to have to upgrade at some point. So this is my first. They told me that I was about to hit the limit, and it was about mid-month, mind you. And then I went in and I checked, and it's like, I've got another month. And when I hit it for another month, then I'm going to upgrade. I know. And at that point, maybe I want to think about actually paying a little bit more and getting a better speed. Actually, I've got a pretty good speed. I've got no worries about that. But $50 a month will get me unlimited internet. And since I work from home, and I know that my internet use is probably not going to go down, I'm probably going to have to give it some thought.
Because I think about at that moment...
But I wonder if it's because all the they're sharing all of the fiber optic lines now. All of these carriers are sharing the same fiber.
It's 4K video. And the other thing is 4K video has suddenly, these people who people who are watching video, these video files suddenly became huge.
And I'm also wondering like what role, because now it's so meshed, like now the TV providers and the entertainment providers and the mobile carrier providers, they're all playing in the same field. They're all like competing with each other now. Like how much of that is it that, now you have free Wi-Fi with AT&T. Now we're going to charge you so you're not just using our Wi-Fi and getting the data off that way.
So I need to reconsider that also, because Edgar now has a PS4 and he's tapping into the Wi-Fi and it's slowing all of us down. So he's playing online with his friends.
Okay.
And I'm kicking him off a lot. I'm like, you can't stay there all day. That's my solution.
One of my brothers-in-law who had he had resisted upgrading their internet. I mean, for like 18 months. My nephew, his son, and my sister, and all of us who visited. Like when I go and spend the night at my sister's, like last year when I spent the night at my sister's for New Year's, and last year, 2015 for New Year's and Christmas, I brought my own Wi-Fi with me so that I could work, because I could, tapping into their Wi-Fi, it was like, I mean, it made me want to kill something.
It's
sitting there, and it's like, forget about watching a video. That wasn't even a possibility. It was just doing community management and stuff, and I kept having to refresh my website because it kept coming up. And I'm like, no, that's it. So I just spent $30, and I got some on my hotspot, and that's what I worked off for the 2-3 days that I was there. But it was like, how do you people live with this? That's what I kept thinking. How do you people live with this? Well, everyone begging him, they finally, and now that he sees the difference, he cannot imagine what took them so long. And it's only a little bit more that they pay every month because they got a really good deal. But the difference in the speed from what they had to what they have now is amazing.
But see, that's a blessing and a curse because you.
But now they're using more.
You didn't know like how slow it was, and now that you do, you're like, oh, like I'm never gonna go back to that slow. But I can't live without it.
It's one of those things where, I mean, I pick my restaurant. There are days when I pick my restaurant based on whether or not I know that they have Wi-Fi.
We do too.
But but the sad thing is, like, I don't know, like it's sad how much we pay for like telephones and internet.
Telephones. Did you call it a telephone?
Yeah,
yes.
for mobile phones and
yes.
all of that. Like, it's sad how much we pay for that. And when I look at when I'm paying my bills, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm paying this much for this crap.
But that's the point. And when people talk about the digital divide, and there will people tell you, oh no, there is no digital divide, and everyone's got a mobile phone. You and I both know that having a mobile phone, even a smartphone, is not enough because there's a great deal of the internet. There's a great deal of functionality on the internet that is not available on a mobile phone. You need a real computer, and you need access to not even like the low-level Wi-Fi, like real Wi-Fi, broadband in your home.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
We were having the same conversation with our friend from Comcast. They give away computers to kids, and I was having a conversation with him about that. That a lot of these families do only have one computer, and some of them don't have any. And the only time they get access to computers is at school or the library. And even there, it's a challenge because there's a lot of challenges. First, you got to get there, and then you got to sign up, and then you were limited to a certain time, and then you got to do this. So when you're doing big projects, it's not suitable. It's just not. And I was telling him how one computer is awesome. But then they run into, when you have multiple kids, what time do you give what time computer? You know what I mean? I think we have one too many computers at the house, let's be honest. Anyways, I was going to say how many computers we have, but maybe that's not a good thing.
But even you, who was like, you were so attached to your phone, and you're like, I'm always going to work from my phone. I can do everything and anything from my phone.
Yeah, I heard that more than once.
And now, like, she's like pulling out her computer and like doing it because it's so much easier.
It is a lot easier. But I was telling him that, you know, that it's still at a standstill because now they have a computer, which is great. What happens to the internet? Now they have to have an internet. And then based on how good the internet is, and what if they have more, because a lot of, it's just known that Hispanics, Latinos own phones and use internet through their phones.
We over-index,
Yes. And a lot of them tap into the Wi-Fi, and it slows everything down, and you're using the computer anyways. So we were having this conversation, and there is a really, really big divide. There really is.
You know,
and the part of that divide also is coming back to what the kids and like how they like access and what exposure they have and how much they're able to do in the space. Kind of ties back to how much access do you have at home, because it's one thing for you to be coding at school, and then you come home and you don't have any access to code or do anything at home. And then there's another thing to be coding at school and then to be able to put it on the cloud and then like finish what you were doing on the computer or continue working on it like you would for anything else.
Yeah. As everything else, there's that saying, and everyone keeps repeating it, about how it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. Okay, so consider that you are a kid from a lower income house. You don't have access to a computer and internet access at home. You have access to it at school. But let's say 2 hours a day at school, 10 hours a week. What? 500 hours a year. How long is it going to take you? 20 years?
Yeah.
20 years, assuming no vacation, no days off, that the access continues, that the class is there, that there's always somebody to give you the access to the technology and the feedback. 20 years. Yeah, that's never going to happen.
But
seriously.
as an example, in Edgar School, they share a computer teacher with other schools. So the computer teacher only comes like once or like a couple times a week. So that's all the access they have to the computers in that school. But
that was just recently. But
luckily for us, like he has access at home. And we're like you said, we're not average users, so like he's able to access a lot more than probably some of his classmates. And the fact is that even and this school is not one that's like that you would say, oh, like they don't have access, just the situation they're in. But like think of the schools that don't have access at all. They don't have a budget for it, or they just don't like there's too many kids and they all have to share the same computers. Like,
just recently,
exactly what you're saying.
Just recently, my niece and my nephew, they've been bringing home computers, right? So they've assigned them computers
from school.
Yes. How long? I was using computers, desktops in middle school. That was ages ago, and they're barely giving them access like that to where they can actually take home and use it at home.
That's
the way it should
big
be.
Gamble, though. If you are a school that you got, if you're a school that you got a grant.
Yeah.
Let's say you got $10,000, and I am being generous there. Let's say you got $10,000 to buy one device per child and send them home, and you know that these are children.
A certain percentage of them are not going to come back.
A certain percentage of them are not going to come back in the... First of all, they're going to come back damaged, or they're not going to come back. And you can't replace them.
So my nephew misplaced his, right? And it was stolen. So it was gone. And they replaced it and they gave it back to him. My niece misplaced hers, and they tracked it. And it turns out it was just at the school, not where she had left it. But they have a way of monitoring these computers in a really secure way, in a really safe way. The way they monitor what they look at it, when they look at what they're looking at in there, they block them from certain things. When you go to a school and you try to type into one of their Wi-Fis, like they block you from Facebook.
But if you track one of these computers to a private domicile, it's my understanding police need a search warrant to go in, and those are not always able. They're not always able to obtain it.
But that was two scenarios. What I'm saying is, it was two scenarios. So you thinking that you had misplaced it when it was just somewhere else. It was easy to track. It was easy to bring back. Of course, when it's stolen, it's kind of just gone. But when you misplaced it, it's like, okay, she told the school, and the school was like, all right, it's here. Yeah.
Well, back to the original conversation though. I've hit the milestone. I am sorry, Comcast. I'm one of the offenders. I went over my limit by quite a bit, honestly.
No.
And
I don't think they mind, because you're going to have to pay up.
Not this month. I'm going to give them credit that they did it very well.
Okay.
They give you 2 months.
Yeah, that is nice.
2 months. So, if you went over once, because let's say I didn't see the letter.
Is it repetitive months?
I wish my wireless carrier would have done that.
Is it repetitive months?
No, it's 2 months in a 12-month period.
Okay.
So, let's say you didn't see the letter and you weren't aware. But you know what? Every time, they would give me so much more. And every time I hit the more, next time I went on the internet, I got a message. Not only when you logged into your account, I literally got a message on my desktop that said, you're about to go over. I got a message on my mobile phone.
They made sure you knew.
And how much did they charge you for extra?
They did not charge me because
did they tell you the rate?
I want to say that I did see it. I don't remember what it was. It's actually reasonable for
$10
the overage.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually reasonable, and it's not unlimited. They capped it with a maximum overage of so much.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much you go over past that. So I'm telling you, I'm not here to say, oh, Comcast is unreasonable. No, they set a limit. I went over. They did it well. They didn't charge me for the first month. They're giving me another month to learn my lesson.
You know what this sounds like? You know what this sounds like? It sounds like a bar. So you run a tab, right? They're like, man, can we have your credit card? We'll just run a tab for you.
My carrier did that, where I would go over and then it would be $10 for every gigabyte extra.
Yeah.
So $10 and $10 and $10, and I was like, okay, that's too many $10.
Well, if I do it 2 months in a row, they're completely 2 months. They're completely justified. They have told me. They gave me every opportunity. They
sent you messages.
They told me how to check my usage during the month. If at that point I have not learned my lesson, okay, they're just going to charge me. And I understand that completely. I do. But think about this. I choose very frequently the restaurant, as we said earlier, based upon where they have Wi-Fi. Where I go between meetings for coffee, based upon where they've got decent Wi-Fi and sometimes connectors? Do they have electrical outlet? It's gotten to the point where literally I've got my favorite places because hotspot. A lot of cities, what they're trying to do desperately is to figure out how to provide Wi-Fi for free in public areas. So in Houston, Discovery Green Park is
Really?
Wi-Fi the entire park.
I didn't know that.
And I know because I used to work for the library. We have a library there. They have laptops that you can check out and use in the area around the library, which is in the area at the park.
I know at one point they were talking about making there was they were trying to make Houston, and then I think they moved on to different cities that they're trying to make like the first Wi-Fi city. Yeah. Like where there's Wi-Fi throughout the entire city.
And if somebody knows something opposite, I do not believe that anyone has managed to do it.
There are a lot of complications with it. Yeah.
In Houston, and I only know this because I actually worked on the project. Mm-hmm. Under Mayor White, there was a contract, and I want to say it was with Earthlink, where they were supposed to come in and do it. Yeah. And they figured out that it was just an impossibility, and so they canceled the contract. There was a fee that was paid to the city for the contract cancellation. If my memory serves, something in the area of $5 million.
Oh, wow.
A portion of that actually went to open what is now the Digital Inclusion Initiative, which runs out of the Houston Public Library. Houston has managed to bring free Wi-Fi to small pockets of areas in 10 high-need neighborhoods in Houston. Mm. And it's not just the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi has been created around areas where they've created computer rooms or computer training centers for the community. So in some neighborhoods, there was maybe a nonprofit that had a computer room that the library and the city came in and helped to augment the technology and to create training programs and bring the Wi-Fi for that center. And then they just sort of moved it open so that the people who live in that area and even some of the businesses can actually tap into the Wi-Fi for free.
Oh, that's good.
The thing there is that one of the reasons why the Digital Inclusion Project initiative was done was to begin to address the digital divide issues in Houston, because it's more than just providing access to Wi-Fi. Mm-hmm. If people don't know how to use technology, if they don't have access to a computer, if you put someone who has rarely touched a computer in front of a computer, they don't know how to open an email. They don't know how to gain access to the password. Some people have to be taught how to do job hunting online. These are digital skills that we take for granted that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah, because if you don't understand the functionality of Dropbox, like for me, then you don't use it properly. But you're using it and you don't even know what the capability of it is.
What I do want to say with that divide that you were talking about is, actually jobs is very important because everything is done. You can no longer, even I think like some McDonald's, you can no longer go in and fill in an application. They send you online.
Well, it's not just the application. Think about, because again, I used to work at the library. I heard from the librarians things that they had to frequently teach people how to check their pay stubs because they were not given. They're all being paid by direct deposit. They get pay stubs on an account. They have to be taught how to access this stuff. If you're someone who doesn't work with computers on a regular basis, these are not. And the other thing is, these are not user-friendly systems. Mm-hmm. And these are not, figure it out yourself kind of systems.
Even things like paying your bills online.
Yes.
That makes your life so much easier. Like, it's just like you just go in and you just go
do
it on your bank account, or you do it on whatever account is you're going to their website and you just pay it. And before, remember when you had to go to the store and you had to get in line and you had to pay your bills,
or you had to send mail,
or you had to
checks.
Mail them out in checks.
But yeah,
when was the last time you wrote a check for something?
Well, see, I write checks every month because my mortgage, I send a check.
Okay.
But that's the only check that I send.
But that's the only way we can pay is through check, and so
that's the only way. That's the only check that I write almost every month.
I pay my gardener with a check every month, and that's it. That's the only check that I write.
So I think I've had my checkbooks that I got from the bank probably 10
years.
10 years
We've
now,
had it years
and I still
now.
haven't even gone through the first one.
We've had it years. Everything is PayPal. Everything is online. Oh my goodness, we depend so much on that little shiny box.
we're running out of time. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite our listeners that if you, whatever city you're in, if you've got if there's some sort of a digital divide, digital inclusion program that just completely is kicking it, or that you think that we should maybe promote, we would love to bring a little bit of attention to some of the projects out there. And that's this week's show. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. We invite you to check out our iTunes and our Stitcher channels and leave us a rating or a review. You can find the link to both channels at thelittleradioshow.com.